we can be sure that the debate on whether or not we stay in the EU is going to be long and drawn out. It's obviously a toxic issue for the Tories, who are deeply split over it, and not for the first time. But even on the left, there are arguments on both sides. The main problems for the left include the EU's involvement in Greece, the bodies that were found floating in the Mediterranean Ocean, the fact that many socialists recoil at the idea of being in the same camp as the loudest voice in the no camp, which is UKIP. Some feel that it would boost their support. And some socialists have also put forward an internationalist position of the EU, arguing that it's a body that enables the free movement of people. And Glasgow, for example, is a very vibrant, multicultural city. So anyone arguing against the movement of people, when we look at cities like this, seems really mad. Therefore, we can't vote no. However, the left can only enter into this debate if we are clear about what our principles are and what our priorities are. So what do they include? They include a rejection and opposition to racism and nationalism. We're for the free movement of everyone, in and outside of Europe. We oppose immigration controls and borders. We want solidarity across borders, and we're against the idea of the British state. Those are our principles, and we have to be really clear that actually the EU has nothing to do with any of these. In fact, these are things that it actively tries to work against. So when the EU was set up, it was about reconstructing European capitalism after World War II, headed by bosses and states that would compete with big players like China and the US. And the EU is without doubt a body that seeks to impose the interests of, as the speakers have said, of capitalist big businesses and bosses, and that's been done through imposing and enshrining the dogma of modern capitalism, what we would call neoliberalism, deregulation, austerity and privatisation. It is an EU bosses club, hell-bent on reinforcing the agenda of capitalism and neoliberalism, privatisation across Europe, and it's determined to limit democratic processes. I say that because obviously the people that we elect into the people that we elect to make the decisions in the European Parliament have absolutely nothing to do with the decisions that are made. It's a completely undemocratic and unelected body. And when we think about what the EU is capable of, we only have to look at Greece. So what did the EU do to Greece? It imposed austerity. A quarter of people unemployed, over half of young people unemployed, over 1 million without healthcare, cuts to public health services, so the spread and increase of disease and suicide rates rocketing. That's what the central bank did to Greece, and that is the nature of the beast that we're up against. So when Cameron calls for reforms, we have to be really clear that he will not be negotiating to limit the EU's attempts to implement austerity. He will not be negotiating to get rid of neoliberalism or to stop privatisation. Actually, what he really wants is reforms that allow him to do more of what the EU is already doing. And I want to make another point about anti-racism. The EU is not some benign force for internationalism and anti-racism. It is quite the opposite. In fact, it actively drives a wedge between workers in the EU and workers outside of the EU, and it does that through subjecting those who are outside of the EU to savage racism. And the most striking example, obviously, is the thousands that drowned in the Mediterranean Ocean trying to make it across from North Africa. 2,000 people died, and actually since 1998, 30,000 people that have died in that ocean trying to make it across because of Fortress Europe. Fences are being built, borders are being tightened, and this is all to keep migrants out. And that is not an accident. It is a very deliberate attempt to attack migrants, and it's built that is built into the very foundation of the EU. So we can't oppose the racism of UKIP without opposing the enshrined racism that is built into the foundation of the EU. And I just wanted to make a brief point as well about young workers. Greece and Spain, youth unemployment rates are now over 50%, and the Wood report released last year revealed that there has been a massive increase in youth unemployment in Scotland. Therefore, staying in the EU, that means more cuts, more austerity in every country, and there will be a disproportionate effect on young workers because they already have no rights. 0 hours contracts, low pay, no dignity, no respect, no union rights. I work for the BFAW in fast food organising, but I also still work in a fast food outlet. I've always worked in the fast food industry, and that is an industry that remains largely unorganised. It's made up mostly of young people, and in general the conditions and pay are pretty awful. So that's coming from that industry. That's kind of something that's informed my decision, my position on the EU, because I think about how it will affect workers like that who already have nothing. If we vote yes, it will be strengthening the bosses in Europe, and it will further deepen the problem and reduce the rights and prospects for young workers, just as it has in Greece and Spain. So I think that's the main thing that we come away with today from this meeting, is that we have to be very clear about what our arguments are. We have to have a clarification of our principles and our arguments. So to those that say voting no will mean Polish and Romanian workers are under threat or will be forced to leave, we say we are for the free movement of people from anywhere in Europe. We are for the free movement of people from outside of Europe, from everywhere. And it's very important actually to make the difference between international institutions and internationalism. I think sometimes there can be a confusion to associate the EU with internationalism when it is nothing to do with internationalism. And actually we need to be calling for genuine internationalism against austerity, against racism and against Fortress Europe. To those that say we should stay because it helps guarantee better rights that we would otherwise have in Britain, we say look at Greece. We only have to look at Greece to see that the EU is no friend to the working class. If we look to the EU to defend workers' rights, then we avoid the real issue, which is that the only way to defend workers' rights is through organising and struggle. And to the trade union leaders, Len McCluskey said social protection is why we should stay in the EU, but that again avoids the real struggle that is to be had in the here and now in the UK. And to those that say that voting no puts us in line with UKIP and the Tory right, we say that of course it's completely possible to have a left no position where we can build a vibrant mass campaign where our voice is heard. And it is important that the unions take that position as well. My union is very involved in challenging racism. We're affiliated to Stand Up to UKIP, Stand Up to Racism, and there's a strong commitment to fighting austerity. But you know, at the end of the day, we are in the same camp as UKIP. So really, what it is that completely sets us apart from them is our anti-racist stance and our anti-war stance, and that's why actually that the demonstration, Stand Up to Racism demonstration on March the 19th is going to be so important for us. So I just want to finish by saying this, that a no vote could break Cameron. It would definitely be a blow to the EU, but most importantly would open up this possibility of resistance. There's no guarantee, but at least the possibility is there. Whereas a yes vote merely strengthens the EU and further entrenches Cameron. It is true that, you know, if the no vote won, that would fatally damage Cameron, but also that maybe the right and UKIP could build from that. But there's nothing to say that we couldn't do that, and actually the forces, the balance of forces could change. So what this is about is how we identify ourselves then in the no camp, how we set ourselves apart from the right and UKIP. And that's why this meeting is really important, because it's clearly not just about yes or no. Of course it's not just about yes or no, it's about why we are saying no. If no wins, we have to make sure that our side benefits from it. And that's why we have to be clear about these arguments. We have to completely disassociate ourselves from UKIP, reject this notion of British jobs for British workers, and we should really, when we're building this campaign, we should be starting with what we're for. Build a positive, anti-racist, anti-war campaign that we draw people towards us, because we say stand up to racism, migrants welcome here, solidarity with Greek workers, solidarity with workers everywhere, in and outside of Europe, no to Fortress Europe, no to austerity, no to privatisation, and we say another Europe is possible.